Welcome into MnM Going Deep. It's the divisional round, folks. Things are getting heated. Teams are getting eliminated. Teams that we thought might go further than others. But you know here first that MnM Going Deep knows what is about to happen in the NFL season. Welcome in, as always, your host, Kyle McCumber, my co-host over there, Cole Mueller. How are you, Cole?
Hey, it's a good day to be alive. I have a dream. Dream came true. And MLK, baby. Let's go.
MLK weekend was a bang. We had a 4-day weekend ourselves. Thank you, Mr. Martin Luther King, giving us 2 days off, which was nice, especially on that Monday, getting two NFL games because of a snowstorm up in Buffalo. But little housekeeping before anything else. Updating on the coaching carousel. So, last episode, we talked a little bit about Mike Vrabel getting canned. As I was editing the podcast last week, Bill Belichick was canned. So that leaves another coaching vacancy up in New England, which was thus filled very quickly by apparently something that was written in Gerard Mayo's contract that he was going to be the successor behind Bill Belichick. So Gerard Mayo is in as the head coach in New England. Bill Belichick is out there looking for a job like most of us. But that's just another top name. Pete Carroll out in Seattle, gone. That there's what was it, 8 teams? But now that New England hired, it's 7 teams now, still looking for a head coach.
Who who all is it? You got Seattle one. We'll go LA Chargers two.
Yep.
You're gonna have we
Did
won't
they
go to
pull the
Dallas.
did they pull the trigger in Vegas on Antonio Pierce?
Technically they haven't, yeah, so that's three. And then um
Washington Commanders,
Commanders
Carolina
are four,
Panthers,
Panthers five,
Tennessee Titans,
six.
um,
I can't think.
Atlanta Falcons.
Seven. Yep.
Ah,
Okay.
ah.
Yeah.
Because I knew it was like a quarter of the NFL was like had fired their coaches when Belichick got fired because it was 8.
Do we, what right now the favorite for Belichick, surprisingly, is, right now it's not considering Dallas, it's Atlanta.
Yeah,
And
it yet to be determined what goes on in Dallas and Philly after those two games. We'll get into that later, but potentially two more head coaching positions opening up in those two locations. Yeah. And I don't think there's enough good coaches to go around for these teams. So somebody's going to get screwed here.
you don't think there's enough good coaches? I almost think it's the opposite.
You
I
think
think
there's
there's too many.
you think there's too many?
So you go Harbaugh, that's one, probably
Yep.
LA Chargers. Two, Belichick. Three, Carroll. Carroll still wants to coach. And what's interesting about Belichick and Carroll is they only really probably going to coach for 3, 4, maybe 5 years
Yeah, so
max.
they're like a win now team that they have
Yes.
to go to.
And then so that's three. You go to Ben Johnson, that's definitely four. Mike
Vrabel,
Vrabel, that's five. Six. Who's the offensive coordinator in the Houston
Houston,
Texans?
Slovic.
Slovik, that's another one. So was that, I think that's seven,
That's
or is that
7.
six? That's seven.
Yeah.
So I'm bad at math, but not to say that like, there's better than others. Obviously, there's matches and fits. I could just see almost people talking about, and it's happened already a little bit, but people with coaches that we thought were not on the hot seat getting fired so that they can go after like this all-time coaching slate that's available.
Yeah.
And that's not even to consider like some of these other names that are like really young and up and coming that would most typically get a coaching interview that are probably now just like, no, I'm gonna. Oh, and we're not even talking about Dan Quinn,
I was
even
gonna
though,
say Dan Quinn was a name being tossed out there until
and
that
he's
Packer
and
game.
he's and he's a favorite for Seattle.
And
And so
another one, my defensive coordinator, Jim Schwartz. He said that he wanted to be a head coach, but bad performances from Dan Quinn's defense and bad performance from Jim Schwartz's defense this past weekend, that might do them in from getting a head coaching job somewhere. But I really think that like if there's two spot like I really like Mike Vrabel as a guy, and I think that if Philly fires Sirianni and they don't get Belichick, they got to get Vrabel.
Do you think Sirianni should be fired? I think,
After yesterday, yeah, 100%.
wow.
That team looks so unprepared, so unmotivated, and so written themselves off in that game.
I think that comes from maybe my experience as a Packer fan with the 2016 2017 Packers with Mike McCarthy and Rodgers and just the dynasty. I mean, this wasn't a dynasty. This was a 1 year powerhouse
Yeah.
with the Eagles. But every single person on that team that mattered, that was an impact player, is still on that team. So where do
No,
you besides
they have a lot of free agents.
no now?
Yeah.
But I'm saying from the Super Bowl team
Okay. Okay. I
up
see what you're saying
until
now.
this year, and like to think they were 10-1 coming out of Thanksgiving, and teams like the Packers and the Buccaneers had losing records after that Thanksgiving. Like after Thanksgiving that week, in week 11, week 12, there was the 10-1 Eagles, and to think that they're not in the playoffs and there's two teams with losing records that are going to, people would think you're insane. So I don't know. It's crazy, and I don't know about what's actually going to happen with Jeffrey Lurie and if him and Howie Roseman make that decision. But Sirianni deserves another year, an
You
opportunity
think?
with Jalen Hurts and that team. And I'll say this: we'll wait until we get over to that
Because
game.
that's
But
yeah, so like and it's surprising too, especially since we see all these head coaches or these big name coaches that are now available that you have like a team like Jacksonville that had an epic collapse this year. They stick with Doug Peterson, kind of like double down on him. And then you have an epic collapse in Philly. Like that's why I think there's potential that they could move on from Sirianni. And especially with like all the stuff coming out of the Philadelphia Eagles like room right now, like there's some stuff that's just not good. And dude, and bad look on the sideline too last night. Dallas Goedert getting in Jalen Hurts' face.
that had to be more than that, though. I don't. Jalen Hurts didn't have a reaction to that.
No,
To me,
it
I
almost
think
looked like he was trying to ignore Dallas Goedert.
to me it seemed more like, "Hey, man, we're gonna fucking get through this. I'm sick of this shit." It didn't seem like he was personally going
Attacking
after
him.
something. And that's I think ESPN was trying to make more of that than there really was in my mind. But uh besides that, what do we have anything we want to go before we could dive in week one or week one?
Unless you have like coaching predictions of where they're gonna go. Only comment I have is holy shit. I've read every name that the Carolina Panthers have interviewed for their head coaching job. I don't think they have any idea what way they want to go with like what the direction they want to go is
Yeah. And I think I my favorite would be Ben Johnson. I
for the
know
Panthers.
I know someone that also would be a solid coaching candidate would be bring in Pete Carroll and have an offensive mind, a young offensive mind, take offensive coordinator. And Pete Carroll, I think, is just a good culture team builder change. You know what I mean? Like obviously Jim Harbaugh is as well, but I think Harbaugh has a lot more ties to the LA Chargers, and I think that's a great fit for him. So I would just leave him out of it, considering.
Yeah, he
And I
was a West Coast guy prior to going to Michigan, like coached in San Francisco, coached at Stanford.
and um you're not gonna get Belichick down in Carolina. So
Yeah, I
there's
don't
just
think so.
I don't I would hate to see Bill Belichick play for a team without the pedigree, like a team like the Atlanta Falcons. They should stay away.
He would look weird in Atlanta Falcons like get up. And then also he would look weird in Atlanta Falcons Stadium because like every time I think of him like in that like getting rained on in Gillette or like in gross weather and him being bundled up. And then he goes to a dome in Atlanta. Yeah, maybe he likes it. But let's hop into wild card weekend. We'll start off in Houston, where the Houston Texans kick the absolute shit out of the Cleveland Browns. And I said it here on this podcast that I was very nervous for this game. I thought that CJ Stroud was set up for a good game and he could probably pick apart our defense. And if the Browns didn't show up, this could go sideways real quick. Browns didn't really show up. Defense was lackluster, unmotivated a little bit. Then Joe Flacco throws 2 pick-sixes on back-to-back plays, and the season's over from there on out. The hurt just kept hurting. Texans piled it on, and Browns never scored again after that second drive that they had where Kareem Hunt punched one in. But Texans got to hand it to them. They're having a great season, and CJ Stroud's really good. Their defense stepped up big time in this game. Really slowed down the Browns' offense. Derek Stingley held Amari Cooper in check. I don't know how banged up Amari Cooper was going into this game. He did sit out the past 2 weeks. I think this was all, I said it too last week. I did not like resting the starters against the Bengals. And I thought that there was like a little bit of rust up that needed to get kicked off with the Browns. And, you know, after an injury riddled season, getting to the playoffs was kind of a miracle behind Joe Flacco. So is it a success? Sure. You got into the playoffs, you got to the dance, but your date left you really fast.
Two questions for you as the Browns fan. One, do you think it would have made any difference if Deshaun Watson was the quarterback in this game?
I won't say Deshaun Watson. If Nick Chubb was our running back, would be 100% different game.
And then two, do you think out of 10 times playing this game, how many times do you think the Browns win?
10 times playing that game. I honestly would think that maybe they go 6-4 or 5-5.
Yeah, I don't. To me, watching the first
Joe Flacco doesn't throw
quarter,
2 pick-sixes
it's
in.
a completely different game.
Yeah.
Completely different game. And to me, it was just an on time. That first pick six was as on timely as it gets. Obviously, the pressure got to him just enough. I don't put it completely on Joe Flacco. The second one was stupid. Like
Yeah.
obviously, he's trying to throw it to 88. Who's that tight end?
Atkins.
Um,
Oh, no,
not
Harrison Bryant.
Harrison Bryant. He's trying to hit Harrison Bryant on that quick out on 4th and 1, and just a dumb pass. Like does not even see the linebacker in the flat.
Yep.
The first one was, he's getting hit from behind just enough to where his arm can't get there. But honestly, the receiver running down the flat, I don't know if it was Cooper or who it was, but running down the left sideline, maybe Tillman. He
No,
was
Tillman
open.
was a scratch.
Oh, really? Yeah. So that was a sad play to watch. Really, you say Nick Chubb would have made a difference, and I'm sure Nick Chubb is a premier running back in the league. Kareem Hunt looked great in this game, especially in the first quarter and a half. Like
He played pretty well.
watching your offense looked like one of the most complete offenses that we've expected to see going into this game. And then, it just didn't turn out to be like the envisionment that we had of Joe Flacco in the second half of a playoff game with all of his experience. And CJ Stroud shined in the moment. You mentioned it being afraid of your defense on the road. That would probably be a massive part. And it just seemed like their offense was incredible. How the Texans were doing these design plays
Yeah,
that would
they
keep
dissected the Browns defense.
Myles Garrett out of the game, because all of these side to side passes and keeping him going sideline to sideline instead of right up the field towards the CJ Stroud in the pocket. And there was all these times where he had to ensure that he was, laterally moving in space versus getting to the quarterback. And every single play seemed like it was a 15 or 20-yard gash. And that was the hard part to watch as a Browns fan, is your defense wasn't dominant all year, but you guys had a damn good defense throughout the season, and that was really your calling card that got you into the playoffs. And
But they were
now,
bad on the road.
yeah, and there's a
And
lot of narratives that have like rang true for a lot of teams, not just the Browns, as far as like their identities. I feel like this is one of the more seasons that like we've seen true identities of teams, and they've lived up to their identity in the good and the bad all the way through their end of their playoff hopes.
yeah.
Like the Dolphins, like the
Yeah.
Dolphins.
That's a prime example. The hats off to the Texans, man. They had a great season. I'm a big fan of CJ Stroud now. I like watching him play. And that was kind of like the worst part about watching that game was like I was like, I kind of like this guy and he's just destroying my favorite team. The only problem I foresee for the Browns right now is I don't know where you go from here.
As far as quarterback,
A lot of things.
I would
That's
be
that's the
shocked
problem.
to see. I would be shocked to see them not consider options. And you can't though because you have not that you can't, but you have Deshaun Watson on a contract that's for the ages.
Yeah, that and then I also think like what do you add to our defense to stop CJ Stroud or even like a Patrick Mahomes or a Josh Allen from dissecting us the way that we did that CJ Stroud did? Because at this rate right now, CJ Stroud is on a tear and he's going up. He's like projecting himself up there. He is about to be on that level of Pat Mahomes, Joe Burrow, Josh Allen. Like if he knocks off the Ravens this week,
Well, to me, so one, I think you could probably use maybe a little bit more interior pass rush from
yeah.
the inside. You could use, I know you have Owosu Kormoa, but you could use like imagine if you had a line, one of the two linebackers from Baltimore. Like you need a dominant
Yeah, I always
linebacker.
wanted Levante David from Tampa. He was
And
a
that's
free he was a free agent like 2 years ago. I wanted him so
old.
bad.
I'm sure he's not going to be like impossible to get. I don't know his contract situation now, but
He's a
I
little
know
up there.
he's like 34 and he's still great, but uh in the draft is really probably what you're looking for more.
I
I
think
mean, you can always
our defense too, I think we really missed Grant Delpit. Like Grant Delpit was supposed to come back and play in this game. He was unable to. They removed him from IR. He practiced all week, and then on that Friday, he said he felt he would be a detriment to the team if he played.
and I'm not saying anything bad about Delpit because I think Delpit seems like from his career these last four, I think he's got 5 years now under his belt, but he's a solid
How many
depth.
years has Joe Burrow got in the NFL?
Delpit came out with Burrow 3 years. This would be his fourth.
Yeah,
So, um,
he tore his
no,
Achilles in his first season. That's why.
he's the same. He's the same as Jordan Love. But yeah, no, he was never a fast. That's why I think his draft stock fell a little bit coming out of the draft because originally he was going to be a top 5 pick and his speed kind of wasn't. But what back to what I'm trying to point, Brevin Jordan. That was kind of a play that was just
Yeah,
they go up 17-14 and you're like what the fuck? Like, how can we give up that type of play on one play, like that big of a gash? And I looked at it, I'm like, that's like team speed. And I've watched a lot of Packers defenses where we haven't had fast defenses. And we've always tried to compensate and just get fast players that don't have instincts. And there's obviously that's the beautiful mesh point where you get a team that's fast and has plays with instincts. You guys have some size freak guys, size speed guys. Denzel Ward's one of the best athletes at corner. Miles Garrett's one of the best athletes in the whole country, the whole continent of the Americas, but that's a question you can answer. And then offensively, you've got offensive pieces. I still think you could add offensive pieces to that,
yeah. We need
especially
like some
especially
receivers, man.
and running back, you're not getting any younger. So I know
So
Ford's not
running back, I've already scouted. I know who I want, and it's
but
gonna be bad. I really want the Georgia running back that's going to come out in the draft this year, Kendall Milton.
Milton?
I think he would be a perfect guy behind Chubb. And I think maybe move away from Jerome Ford. I don't know. He did play well with Chubb's injury. Hunt, I think, is getting up there in age and like he's just losing steps year after year. But I think Kendall Milton, I circled him as a guy that later in the rounds of the draft, I was like, that could be a guy. And there was a wide receiver that I was like, ooh, if we got him, I can't remember who it was.
There's a lot of them. So,
There are a lot coming out this year. The guy Tez Johnson from Oregon, because he's predicted to go in like the second or third round.
but anyways, this is the type of stuff we need to talk about postseason, so
Yeah.
that we're not
Yeah, yeah.
if we start talking about offseason needs in the wild card round, just imagine
It's only
everything.
because it was my team. That's
I know.
it.
No, I got you. Yeah, that was a brutal way to go out. But I mean, if there's a team you'd like to lose to, the Texans are a cool story
Yeah.
in my mind. I mean,
And it's the same thing as like what I was saying is that like I kind of liked CJ Stroud, like watched him
yeah.
at Ohio State a lot, and like D'Amico Ryan's good guy, good head coach. I like Nico Collins, so just sucked. But we'll move forward, go into the Ice Bowl of the night. Miami Dolphins visit the Kansas City Chiefs. The Miami Dolphins can't beat winning teams. Chiefs 26, Dolphins 7. Not good.
And with that, this was never a game. Even when it was 10-7, it should have been 27-0. It was a brutal, like Tua Tagovailoa. I hate saying his fucking name.
Yeah,
Tua
he didn't look good.
looked awful. And now you start questioning again in an offseason, is Tua the guy?
Yeah.
And they're gonna have his back. That whole offense is gonna support Tua, and that just shows the type of person he is, but not the type of player he is. And I'm not gonna say that Tua isn't a top 32 quarterback in the league, but his stats are inflated because of the offense he plays in, and he's for sure not a fucking top 10 quarterback. And in my mind, we've already seen a lot of young players just take the growth and the steps to be better than him from when, the first 6 weeks of the season, Tua was or not the Heisman, the fucking MVP favorite. But Tua's never won a game in temperature under 45 degrees. So that was obviously
Bodes
it's
well. He
30.
plays in Miami.
And yeah, and that works, if you clinch a fucking home playoff game, but when you
You choke it away.
when you choke it away. And I don't know if you watched, I kind of just saw glimpses and snippets of that Hard Knocks in season with the Miami Dolphins and Mike McDaniel's motivational speech to try to like motivate them after they choked up the game against the Buffalo Bills. It was almost just embarrassing to kind of look at the reactions from the players in that conference room as he's talking about how much this adversity is going to help them and make them a pivotal step towards growth in the playoffs. And everyone's just like this, and people are like they're not locked in, and they weren't locked in. It looked like their defense. Obviously, you don't have
They had a lot of
Bradley
injuries
Chubb.
on defense.
You don't have Bradley Chubb. You don't have Jalen Phillips. You don't have Andrew Van Ginkel. So you have no pass rush. And I saw a stat where uh they put who's I'm losing my mind, the defensive coordinator, the oldest guy, he's iconic on defense. He used to be the
Big
coach for the Denver
Fangio.
Broncos, Vic Fangio.
Ha ha ha!
They played the most cover zero of any team all season. They had the most cover zero snaps, which obviously means they're rushing six
They're
every
blitzing.
every every play. And they did that because the first drive, like Pat Mahomes had the most time to throw of any quarterback in like the last two seasons of a playoff game. He had forever back there. And it seems like they don't have many options right now, but Rashee Rice and Travis Kelce are just enough. And you got a great running back right now in Pacheco.
The Chiefs converted on third down 72% of the time. That's gross.
Yeah. And
Like,
it didn't even look like the Dolphins had the same type of they looked like a UFL team out there and it was on defense. And they had a great defense throughout the season. Not
yeah.
great, but good, a very good defense when they were healthy. And it just looked like the cold made them look slower and weaker.
The
And
Dolphins uniforms just don't do them justice when they're in a cold environment. And
they look
especially like with the way that their offense is built with like the speed and like the get Devon A chain on the outside with those runs. Dude, that game that we were talking about it last week. That game is a game where you want like a Jerome Bettis or like a Mike Allstott to pound the fucking rock and like just hurt the enemy or like the opponent team that by the fourth quarter they don't want to tackle you anymore. And I was thinking about the Miami Dolphins weapons with A-Chain, Hill, Waddle. They don't have a wide receiver, in my opinion, that just goes over the middle and just dominates and gets the ball. Like we saw growing up, like Rob Gronkowski over the middle or Julian Edelman
Mike
over the
Mike
middle.
Gesicki that
Mike
they
is
let walk.
Mike Gesicki, who's now in New England.
Yeah, not to win
Like
anything.
they don't have any of those guys that I can just picture in my head catching like a third and 8 ball and doing like a backup to try and like get a first down. They just have these dudes that they're go, be free, be fast. And like sometimes, yeah, speed kills when it's September, it's October, but when you start getting into December and January, it ain't gonna cut it if you're not playing in Miami.
So to me, this game, as much as you want to say they needed some sexier weapons, that could be true.
It's not even sexier. It's
I'm
like
not gonna say I disagree. Yeah, more versatile because they
more
have the same, like kind of like the Packers, they have a different bunch of different gadgets that play their own role. The Dolphins, I think you're kind of saying, have a lot of speed that don't really mesh with that third down threat across the middle of the field. This game, I not saying I disagree with you. That could have been an impact on another game against the Ravens, perhaps. But this game, I feel like came down all to the offensive line could not block for their
yeah.
fucking lives. And Tua didn't have time. And when Tua doesn't have time, he looks like a bad quarterback, kind of like Jared Goff. And I think Jared Goff's a better quarterback than Tua, no doubt. But that's just where I see Tua now is he needs time. He's a system quarterback. He's a really good system quarterback when he has protection. And then their defense, obviously their defensive line couldn't get anything going against the Chiefs offensive line. So that's really where I think it was just a bust of a game. But the Chiefs, that's a winning formula. If they can run the ball with Pacheco, play really good defense,
And
Mahomes
Mecole
can make
Hardman not stop in the middle of a play.
yeah, he still had a myth. There were still a couple of myths, like Travis Kelce dropped a ball. Like there were some things that were still not going the Chiefs' way, but it didn't matter in this one, and we get to see a great game next week against the Bills in Buffalo. Mahomes' first road game as a fucking
Yes.
athlete in the NFL, which
6
isn't
years in the NFL, and this is his first road playoff game.
which it's not like it's like his third time in the playoffs. Like this guy
He's
has
in,
played like three
they've
or
gone
four
to the
playoff games.
AFC Championship every year since
Yeah,
2017.
like he's played in like three or four playoff games every year, and it's his first road playoff game. I was shocked when I heard that,
He
and
has
I
more.
was,
He has the same amount of playoff wins as John Elway and Peyton Manning right now, and
and so
he's
to me,
6 years in his NFL career.
if he loses, if he loses, which we'll get into that later, but like that's going to be a narrative for Pat Mahomes, even if it's one
Oh
game of it.
yeah, if it's one loss, he
Can't
can't
win
do
on
it
the
on the
road.
road.
Yeah, so I don't know. That's just something to keep an eye on.
I think
What do you
I'd
got?
I think I'd ride home with that all into next year. Like, what happens if he not on the road? But yeah, we talked about the Chiefs not looking like they were clicking for a while. It looked like they kind of put it together in this game. But I don't know. They do have a tough matchup this weekend, and it's a juicy one to be watching. The only thing I hate is the fact that Tony Romo is going to announce it.
I disagree. I love Tony Romo,
I
so
hate Tony Romo.
we disagree on that one. I
Greg,
think
Greg Olson's my guy.
I don't mind Greg Olson, but I mean, this is Olsen's last season, I think, as the head guy on Fox.
Yeah, that whole Brady thing's weird. But we
We
head to
got
Sunday.
yeah.
We head to Sunday where the Green Bay Packers visited the Dallas Cowboys in Dallas and come out victorious 48-32. They might as well just rename AT&T Stadium Green Bay Packers Stadium of the South.
And this was the most watched, which I mean, you can see with the two teams, but the most watched playoff game on Fox since 2015. I don't know what it goes to other teams, but 43.5 million on average viewing across the game. Kind of cool. We got I don't know. This was a fun game to watch, obviously, as a Packers fan, because it seemed like everything went right. Big turning point was right at the coin toss, taking the ball and instead of deferring. And if Jair Alexander was out there at the coin toss, maybe something goes wrong. But we didn't have him out there, got the ball, and that's just kind of how the Cowboys play ball. Is they start with the lead and then they pin their ears back on defense and they get to the quarterback and then they make some turnovers in the secondary. That was awesome. Getting that first drive, Love had a few like really. To me, I just always feel like there's some luck to Jordan Love right now, and some of these plays he's making, it's just like oh, thank God, and
He
like
set
it's
the
a
tone
relief.
early.
It's a relief. But the more and more consistently he's doing it, it's to me it's less luck and it's more just he's a gamer. And obviously Matt LaFleur is dialing up some great offensive game plans these last 3 to 4 weeks. It just comes down to can our defense make plays against really good teams? And when we get ahead early in offense, our defense plays better. They're a lot better playing with the lead. Obviously, when you rest your starters, when you're up 32 points late in the third quarter, you're going to give up 16 points within not as much time as you'd like to bleed off. You wish more blood off, but I was content with Jordan Love's highest QBR of a quarterback all time in a playoff game.
Yeah,
99.6
wasn't
since
it?
a stat since 2006.
Yeah,
But
but wasn't it CJ Stroud against the Browns? He had like a 99.3 and then Love broke it with
yeah,
99.6.
well, I think Stroud had like a 98 something.
Yeah.
Like Stroud had third best. Josh Allen had second best with the 98.6. And then, but what's crazy is really good quarterback play gets you like really good games, gets you like in the low, like 90, 80, 88, 90. Having that type of game is just, it's unheard of. And he would have had a perfect passer rating. All these, like these fun stats really comes down to motion, play action. Packers had 60% of their snaps. And this was another crazy, over 60% of their snaps were under center. And that's the most in an NFL game this season by an offense, which I don't know how people come up with these stats, but that's another stat that was just fun to see. Uh, Dak Prescott, what's his future? I still think he's a top 12 quarterback in the league, but
12.
some are saying 10. And to me, there's too many quarterbacks that are hurt right now, like
There's a
Joe Burrow.
lot hurt.
Joe Burrow. I mean, Kirk Cousins even might you say is better than Dak, but
Yeah, I mean, Love threw for 272 yards, 3 touchdowns, and like as a Green Bay fan, you have to be on cloud nine that you have Jordan Love and now Matt LaFleur, who I think is doing a fantastic job coaching you guys up. Uh, like that pairing is just meshing so well post Aaron Rodgers. And like that breakup was a little odd and a little weird. I know you still have love for Rodgers, but you know that it was like a little odd thing. I guess maybe like they just wanted Jordan Love to start being the guy. But dude, that
they didn't
I
think he was the guy though. They had no idea.
yeah, that too. And then also I think like what I've seen over your team since like the since like in the middle of the season. Like the entire team has like come together. Like it was like it's become like a union in Green Bay, and it's really nice to see. I still think one of your biggest X factors in these playoffs is Aaron Jones being fucking healthy, because I think Aaron Jones is just such a difference maker. And yeah, maybe him not playing like basically all year, like that hurt you in your games. But fucking A, man, to have him fully healthy and like running as hard as he is right now in the playoffs, it's dangerous with Jordan Love right now.
But here, and so you're exactly right, Kyle. And the other thing I'll say on that though is I'll take it another step further. Aaron Jones getting hurt week one had he had the four touchdowns against
Against the
Chicago.
Bears, yeah.
He had the four touchdowns, gets hurt. It forced the offense to use, like, my favorite thing about my team is we have seven legitimate receivers, six of them which are special. I think six of them are really good. Seven of them are, Samori Toure. I hope he doesn't make the team next year. We get someone better.
And then,
But
not to mention, you have two tight ends that have like emerged out of nowhere, Tucker Kraft and Luke Musgrave.
And that was my other thing. Luke Musgrave was the clear number one, and Tucker Kraft didn't play a role until week 7
When
when
they
or
when hurt got hurt.
until the I think it was the Rams game or the Chargers game when Musgrave got hurt. And Tucker Kraft became a lot of fans say that Kraft is the better tight end now, but both of them are very, like, they're going to be great players for us. And there's so many options to throw to for Jordan Love, and they're all exciting. Like Christian Watson had one reception.
I
Jaden
didn't
Reed,
even know he played.
yeah, he had one reception. He was. It's not like he was hurt. He was
No.
run blocking in the fourth quarter. Like he was out playing the game run, and like it's an unselfish group. Jaden Reed has been on like our kind of our star gadget
Yeah.
guy, doing all the motions and the fly sweeps, and he had 0 touches on yesterday or in the playoff game. So you kind of just don't know what to expect. Wicks is a crazy good route runner. He's a really good athlete.
Then Bo Melton all out of nowhere.
Bo Melton, extremely fast. All these guys are under 23. Like the oldest one is Christian Watson. He just turned 24. And so you have Malik Keith, who's an undrafted free agent, who's been a baller, and he's kind of like the Alan Lazard type, where he's a great blocker. He's got really solid hands and just a good knows his role. But yeah, it's exciting to see our offense kind of have all these pieces that'll be around for a couple of years. Everyone's kind of saying our Super Bowl window starts 2025. Like that's our year where we're really going to be that type of team. People are saying maybe next year, now that we're kind of getting a little bit more success than we thought. We'll see. I know that we need a lot more depth on defense, and we took some injuries. Jair Alexander's hurt again. If he doesn't play, there's absolutely zero shot we have a chance against the Niners, but we'll get into that later. Cowboys,
Yeah, they have a lot of
you're
decisions they got to make.
yeah, and that's
First it starts with Mike McCarthy. What do you do with him? Second, Dak Prescott, and then you have a laundry list of dudes: Tony Pollard, Tyron Smith, Stephen Gilmer, Jaron Kearse, Jordan Lewis, and four other dudes that I'm just leaving off, that all are free agents.
and it's not like this team, you're not going to be in a situation where you're going to rebuild and build for the long haul. You have the quarterback, and in my mind, a lot of Packers fans would say they'd be stupid to let go of Mike McCarthy. How many coaches go 12-5, lead one of the best offenses in the NFL with the quarterback that's by all accounts an MVP, not a
Candidate.
front. If it wasn't for Lamar Jackson, he'd be the front runner. And what are you doing? So you're going to fire him because he's bad in the playoffs? Okay, that's legitimate, especially when you're the Dallas Cowboys. But
I think it's also what we talked about earlier. Like they're just names
coach
that are out there.
and that's part of what I see. You give Bill Belichick the reins, let him get, work it out with Jerry Jones. It's just weird to me. I know Mike McCarthy can win a Super Bowl, but I don't know what's going to happen. It's going to be by the end of the week, you'd think, right? Wouldn't be the latest you'd expect to see the news?
Probably today's Tuesday, so probably Thursday.
Yeah. Okay.
But, but
You,
yeah,
you also
a lot of
you know what
questions.
Dallas you know what Dallas needs is a fucking weapon besides CeeDee Lamb. Obviously, Ferguson's turned into be a player, but
Yeah.
I think Pollard's a good running back. I don't think he's a star running back by any means. And if you want to get someone to be a combo with him, a 1-2 punch, I think that'd be a good idea.
Yeah, they were trying to do that with like that Rico Dowdle guy, and then they
I
drafted
mean,
Deuce Vaughn too.
yeah, well, Deuce Vaughn is 110 pounds,
Yeah.
and then Rico Dowdle was like a 5-year player. Like he's like a former like all he's like a Matthew Slater. He's a all special teams guy, and then they're like, oh, let's let you play running back. I don't know. This get a receiver, but what would how crazy would it be? You trade Dak Prescott for, I mean, Dak Prescott to the Patriots for the third pick in the draft. Maybe
I don't think they'd get a third pick
fuck around and get Drake May. You don't think they get a third overall pick for
for
Dak Prescott?
no, I don't think so.
I think Dak Prescott's worth the top 5 pick. Especially for a team like the Patriots that just want to play good defense and have a solid offense. Dak Prescott can do that.
They got a lot of questions in New England right now, so I don't know.
But we'll get yeah. That's anyways. We'll stop with the offseason bullshit.
Let's head to Detroit where the Lions took on the Rams. Lions knock off the Rams 24-23. Matthew Stafford gets his reunion back in Detroit, upset by Mr. Jared Goff and Dan Campbell. This was a phenomenal game and probably the best game of the weekend. And there were Lions fans crying at the end of the game with how emotional this was. Like, hadn't won a playoff game in so long, hadn't won the division in so long. And 2 weeks ago, we were talking about how the fucking Lions got screwed by the Dallas Cowboys and a bullshit call. And now the Dallas Cowboys get fucking train wrecked by the Green Bay Packers. And so now there's a second home playoff game in Detroit because of this win. And they have some momentum, and their defense is playing pretty well. And Dan Campbell has a unit that is dangerous. And it all starts with Jared Goff, of course. He needs to stay in rhythm, and and there's like things he needs to clean up, but it all starts with Jared Goff. Like if Jared Goff is going to have a bad day, Lions probably have no shot.
Yeah. Um, Kind of just watching that game, the Detroit Lions look like they have the offense that Jared Goff had in LA. It almost seemed like truly you watch that and you're like, this is the LA Rams with the weapons they had on the outside with Todd Gurley, like Jameer Gibbs
Is
and David
very good.
Montgomery. Yeah, both are, but Jameer Gibbs is just crazy twitchy, and he's weirdly strong for how skinny and small he is. But it's almost like a James Cook clone, except he's faster than James Cook and he's better hands. But besides the point, they have the offense that just works for Jared Goff, and they were doing crazy good. The fact that their last field goal was with 8 minutes and 30 something seconds left in the third quarter, and they didn't score again and were able to hold off the Rams. There were a few times in the fourth quarter where every Rams fan probably thought that game was over. And I put my bet on the Rams winning that game simply because I thought it was going to come down to a Matthew Stafford heroic
Game winning
drive
drive.
in the end. And the Rams had their opportunities and came down to the Rams punting to
Yeah, that was weird.
the Lions and trying to play defense to get the ball back. Would have never thought Sean McVay would have done that with Matthew Stafford. They didn't have the defense that they've had in the past. Did not see them trying to be the team where they're going to punt it towards letting their defense win them the game or put them in the position to get the ball back.
Yeah, when your offense was probably the reason you got there.
Yeah, your offense kept and Matthew Stafford in the first half was like cooking. It was insane. Some of those throws he was making, like he was like fucking throwing it from like down below his fucking belly
And
button.
and Puka Nakua, holy moly, is he going to be a
Yeah.
problem for teams?
Yeah. And that's what I've always like tried to say Puka is overrated. I don't get how he's so good. How did he fall so far? I don't. I'm like, he's not that fast, but oh my God, he's pretty fast. And I'm like, he's not that athletic, but damn, he's doing that against athletes that I think are better than him, but are they? And then he's like, okay, he's got good hands, but like everyone does. So what the fuck? But the guy gets open and he gets results, and I'm gonna shut up because he's proved me wrong every week of the season. And I mean, Cooper Cup, that offense, Tyler Higbee towards ACL, that sucks. But Kyron Williams had a few really good runs in this game still. I know he only got 60 yards, but
Yeah.
uh, really goes to the Lions being able to stop them on defense
Hmm.
and holding the field goals 3 times. That was massive. Uh, but they got in the red zone 3 times, and the Rams settled for field goals, and that was what decided the game.
Yeah, and I guess if as a Rams fan moving forward, even though there's only like six of them out there, you got to feel pretty good about next year. They can add more weapons on defense. Like you have a good surrounding cast of Stafford, Nakua, Cup, and Kyron Williams now. Yeah, it sucks Higbee's hurt, but like that's a solid that's a like especially with how Stafford played down the stretch. Like we came into this year with all these like question marks about him with his injuries and all like is the elbow okay? Is his back okay? And then he goes out this year, like gets hurt in the middle of the year, doesn't play in that Green Bay game, but comes back with a vengeance.
Yeah, and they had 16. They're kind of a team similar to the Packers, and I mean, not in the youth that they have, but
Yeah.
the dead cat money. This was kind of a year that they were turning over. It was supposed to be a washed year. I think their projected win total was one of the worst in the NFL coming in
7.
the. And okay, that's not terrible, but they need pieces. I know you're saying that. We'll talk off season later, but I still think they need pieces on defense for sure. And if they want to be a team that's going to take it to the next level. But yeah, Stafford is proven to be still a top 8 quarterback in the league when he's healthy. And he looked like prime Stafford in this game, and he's got a
Yeah.
lot left.
All right.
Uh,
We'll close that book and then we'll head to Monday where the Buffalo Bills hosted the Pittsburgh Steelers. This game was supposed to be played on Sunday, but since a huge snowstorm came into Buffalo, got moved to Monday because of the governor. The governor chimed in and was like, we're not gonna endanger our people. So they play on Monday and the Bills win 31-17. Josh Allen looked very good. And the Pittsburgh Steelers looked like they kind of didn't belong in the playoffs, which is what I thought all along. Sorry.
yeah.
Um,
But you were trying
even
to say that the Bills, you were trying to say the Steelers are going to win this game now.
Oh
That's
yeah, I think, but like what I was saying when I was like talked about this last week is like it's a picture perfect like Pittsburgh. You wrote them off like all of a sudden they just creep back in. Then it's apparently going to be a bad weather game. So throw out the fucking record books with bad weather. Don't know what you're going to get there, but
I
game
will
kick
say this.
game
Oh, go
kicked
ahead.
off and fucking Buffalo beat the shit out of them. And I know it was only by 14 points. I watched that entire game and I was not nervous for the Buffalo Bills at all.
Okay, I'll say that. There was not a point I thought the Bills were going to lose. However, if I was a Steelers fan, you always had hope until Shakir with that touchdown. Like it was 21-0. You're like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Like, are you kidding me? It was bad defense. Like over Fitzpatrick, like it was the 2 tight ends, Knox and Kincaid get those 2 touchdowns within like the first 9 minutes of the fucking game. And then Josh Allen just runs right through fucking 52 yards. That was a beautiful, he's so fast. I mean, we kind of knew he was fast, but like
And the
he's
Steelers got
fucking.
a gift too with that fumble not being a fumble thing.
Oh yeah, yeah. The Fryermuth.
Yeah, like it
Yeah, it was
where
out of
like
bounds or touched his helmet when he's out of
there
bounds.
yeah,
Okay,
but there
no.
was like no clear angle where it
Yeah,
touched his helmet. Like,
yeah.
get the fuck out
Everyone's
of
like,
here.
everyone's like, oh, it grazed his helmet. I'm like, no, it fucking didn't.
It was
But
not nowhere near his helmet, but definitely didn't touch his helmet.
the but no, and then the Steelers came back. Obviously, Pickens pissed about the no call. Like there were some times with the refs you're like, damn, that could have been holding. That could have been a illegal contact on the Bills.
Coulda,
And
woulda,
whatever,
shoulda.
whatever. Yeah, whatever, whatever. But that would have been could have given the Steelers another chance to score and then tie the game. That was when it was 24-17. And that didn't happen. Bills get the ball back and they end it. But I mean, right now, if I'm looking at the Bills, they need to get healthy on defense. They have injuries, and it just seems like they they're prone, like injury prone. Every time the defense steps on the field, they're getting two or three guys nicked up, and some of them come back and return to play the rest of the game. But it's like their defensive secondary just looks like it's a rotating defensive back carousel every
Yeah, I
single
mean they have
drive.
so many injuries. Like Tre'Davious White is hurt, but I know what you're saying because like it was like one play would go by and Micah Hyde would be like touching his ankle, or the next play would happen and Jordan Poyer would be on one knee and he'd be like, and
And then who's Elam, the former first round pick from last
uh,
year? He he's like their fifth corner or something, and he's in there because their fourth corner is hurt. And the first play, it's like, oh, he gives up a holding, and it's like, oh, this guy on Deontay Johnson, it could have been a touchdown, and he gives up a holding, and I'm like, oh, this guy's just ass. He's about to get carved up, and then they're the 5 yard line, and Rudolph throws right against the sideline in the end zone, back of the end zone to Deontay Johnson, and Elam picks it off. And I'm like, fuck, man, like he balled. He made it happen. So it was just there was a lot of opportunities that the Steelers could have made this an even closer game. And again, the Bills were the better team. The Bills won, but it wasn't a blowout.
I get what you're saying, but you know what I'm saying when I'm like there was no point where I was
Yeah.
nervous for Buffalo Bills fans.
If it got close, Josh Allen was going to beat Mason Rudolph. I
Yeah,
agree.
pretty sure like that's gonna happen. Uh, yeah, I agree that the Bills have some injuries. They just gotta like put everybody in bubble wrap for a week and then hope that they don't get hurt. Steelers, hey man, you got to the playoffs. You're kind of like the Browns right now. You got there. I don't know what the fuck the Steelers do, and I don't want to talk about that.
Yeah, we can talk about that in the offseason. They're
But but
yeah.
hey Buffalo,
Mike
you got
Tomlin
you
walking
got
off.
Josh Allen.
Mike Tomlin walking off the press conference. You see that?
Yeah, the hey coach, you have 1 year left on your contract.
Yeah,
Just pieced.
I respect that. I like how he's like, if we're not gonna talk about the game, let's not fucking talk.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, Buffalo, you got Josh Allen, man. You can hang with anybody. I'm telling you. You can hang with anybody. And we'll talk about it later, but we'll talk about it later. Never mind. All right, so now we'll go to Monday night
Eagles, yeah,
where the Eagles visited the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers dominate the Philadelphia Eagles 32-9.
mhm.
And I know this game was 9-18, 9-16 at a point. It just felt like the Buccaneers had it in control the entire time too. Like they were doing anything on offense. Rashad White looked great. Baker was tearing them
Yeah.
up. Getting
And that,
Cade
go ahead.
Otton. Cade Otton, man. He
Well,
had a few drops, but
Kate
holy
had Kate
shit.
Otten had four drops that were like bad drops, but then he still managed to get 90 yards. It was like, dude, that guy could have had 150 because he could have had 150 and two touchdowns, but he didn't.
They showed Mike Evans stats like into like in like the third quarter, and I was like, what the fuck has Mike Evans done in this game? He had one reception and the
Well, he
and
dropped the touchdown. Did you see him
yeah.
drop? That was terrible. And again, Mike Evans doesn't do that often, so it's whatever. But Mike Evans kind of looks old. I'm sure he's a star. He's really good. But
Yeah, 11 straight years of 1,000 yards.
David Moore, did you see that touchdown?
Yeah, David
The
Moore.
same Seahawk, the Seahawk, and I remember when the
That's
Buccaneers got,
where he's from.
yeah, I mean, he had a good run there, but the Packers, he kind of went off against the Packers in that game where Baker Mayfield had the perfect passer rating. The week like 14, I believe. Yeah, week
Yeah.
14. But or week 15. But besides, yeah, Baker Mayfield was incredible. He had some passes that could have been picked off. that
Yeah,
weren't.
there were a few
Uh,
that it definitely could have been picked off.
and I mean, some of those, like the Josh Palmer, that's just the speedy rookie receiver that they have that like
Trey
caught that
Palmer,
little. Yeah, yeah. Sorry, what did I say?
Josh
Oh, my bad. Yeah, Trey
is
Palmer catches
yeah,
that like 7 yard catch and then just turns up the field and dusts them for that long touchdown, and
and
that's
that's
going to show. Yeah,
in the Eagles defense, like that's the play I'm thinking of when when I'm like they gave up. Like James Bradbury easily could have tackled him. Kevin
two
Byard easily could have tackled him.
Bradbury had two missed tackles that were just touchdowns that he gave up, and there was the one that like it might have been a fourth down, and it was in the red zone, and he gave up like a first down from just not tackling him before the line, or it might have been a third down, but it was a crucial play. And he stops him short, and then he just lets the receiver make moves and get the first down. But it's a Buccaneers have a veteran offense, and they can go.
And a veteran defense.
They do, and that's one thing I was going to say. Their defense, to me, when I saw the tush push when it was 17-9 and they got the penalty and the Eagles went back on the field to go for the tush push,
I
I
said to
knew for
myself, I was
fact
like, Vita Vea
Vita
is going to
Vea, Vita Vea, yeah,
be a
right,
problem
yeah,
here.
that's what I said too. I was like, there's no way that doesn't happen. So, uh, if I'm a Eagles fan, I'm scared because
There's a lot
there's
of
really
questions.
there's a lot of questions, and Jalen Hurts, to me, and this is just my opinion, I never thought Jalen Hurts was just a supreme passer, a thrower of the football. To me, he's a really, really good athlete with great mental makeup. Like he's got a great mindset as far as he can face any type of criticism and just overcome. We saw it in Alabama, goes to Oklahoma, backs up
Successful
Bama,
career
and
there. Yep.
yeah, like he's been through adversity throughout his career, and he's done amazing. But so I don't think he's like gonna like shy out in the moment. But he's a gamer. But he's Ryan Tannehill with the legs of fucking Justin Fields.
Would you
That's
rather Jalen
he's
Hurts or Tua Tagovailoa? Isn't it insane to ask that question now after like that, like their college careers, and now here
which
we are in the pros?
would you rather have Justin Fields or Jalen Hurts?
Justin Fields.
Would you?
Yeah.
And that's unique too. I think Justin Fields he's a little more twitchy.
I think
So
he's
I
got a
mean,
bad rep too. Like I know from watching Ohio State games, Justin Fields can throw the fucking ball. Jalen Hurts, even in college, I was like, he looks funny when he throws it.
yeah, and a lot of his touchdowns are just throw it the fuck up to AJ Brown or Devontae Smith and watch him go. And they had a great offense. They had a great offensive, like Gardner Minshew looked phenomenal with fucking Shane Steichen.
Steichen.
So
Yeah.
I don't know. It's something to
There's,
think about.
but like even like you mentioned it, but like already today, Jason Kelsey retires. Fletcher Cox, Brandon Graham, those dudes are not coming back. Like their
If they do come back, they're not getting any better. They're
yeah.
already receding
Because
as
like
players.
even yesterday, I didn't see Fletcher Cox or Brandon Graham like you
Oh,
used to in the game.
Fletcher Cox made some big time plays in that game. I will say that. Fletcher Cox balled a few. He had like 3 plays where he's just like, "Oh my god!" Like
There was like two I can think of where I was like, oh my God, was that Fletcher Cox? And it was nose. What something Williams and then Josh Sweat made the plays.
Well, here's what I'll tell you. Well, no, Fletcher Cox was great with like interior pass rush, but run defense. Remember when they got Jordan Davis to be like the best interior run defender in the
And
NFL?
Jalen Carter.
And Jalen Carter. There was a couple plays where it was Jalen Carter and uh, Jordan Davis, and right up the middle, that Bucks offensive line, which isn't even that great, just breaks through, and Rashad White just carves him up. And Zach Cunningham, the middle linebacker, is athletic, but he's not kind of a physically tough guy, and just kind of gets bulldozed, and they looked like shit. But that's all I have on that game. It's sad to prospect for a team that was in the Super Bowl last year.
And I feel, and the one last point I want to make is because like I am a Browns fan. I have shit on Baker Mayfield a lot this year. I am very happy for Baker Mayfield. I'm happy that he moved on to a team. He feels like he like belongs there, found himself in the NFL and is successful because like for years the Browns would draft quarterbacks and then they would go on to be backups other places and never really have successful careers anywhere else. And it always just seemed like the Browns ruined them. It's really nice to see Baker Mayfield being successful in Tampa and like he's got that energy and that fire back that I saw when he was the quarterback of my team, and Bucks fans should really embrace that because it was awesome in Cleveland, and it sucks that like all the things didn't work out, but it's just one thing that happens in the NFL, and like teams want to move on and get their guys, and like that's what ended up happening. But enough of that. Enough of wild card weekend. We will move on into the divisional round. Probably the best football we'll see all year.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I think next week there's one game that's like, wow, this can be a really good game. Some could be turn out to be really good games, but I don't know. There's two matchups. Like you want to see the Chiefs Bills, and then we want to get it for an NFL fan. We want to give us 49ers Ravens in the Super Bowl. I think everyone wants that, but
Do we?
I don't. But the NFL as a whole, like that's the best matchup.
Is it?
That's the best. Those are the best two teams in the NFL.
I don't know, man. Like I like the Cinderella stories. Like
I
the
do too. I do
like
too.
the
But you know what I
like
hate?
when the
You know what I
Packers won
hate?
the last time and then like when the Giants won their two times, like those
Yes.
Cinderella stories are cool. Those are
But
fun.
what I hate when a Cinderella story makes its way to a stage that it shouldn't be on, and then it gets its ass kicked.
Oh
Like
yeah, and it gets destroyed. Yeah.
that's no fun. And we'll see. But it is kind of cool when you see the two best teams in the NFL make it to the Super Bowl. We know which two teams they are, Ravens and Niners. I would love to see the Packers beat the Niners and then shock the world and then play, whatever, storylines, whatever. But Texans, Ravens, we'll get into it. Ravens, 9-point favorites.
Yeah, I was about to say there's three big spreads this week.
And so 9 points. What do you got on this one?
Ravens sat their guys for 2 full weeks because they didn't play in the Pittsburgh game. Now they play the Houston Texans, who are firing on all cylinders. Like
Hold up.
Texans are hot. What?
We the spreads have changed significantly. So let's change them. From this morning, the spreads were it was 9 points Ravens.
I
Now
still have 9
it's I got 7.5.
on. Are you on your ESPN app?
ESPN.
All right, we'll go with 7.5. But on the ESPN that I have pulled up on my laptop, it's 9 still. But
Are you on an article or are you on the actual
I'm,
scores
I'm on the
page?
actual scores thing.
Same, I am too. The fuck? Wait, I have bro, I wish I could show you this. Do you see this? Do you see that right here?
I
It
see
says
9.
it says 9 and then it says 7.5, 7.5. And then watch this. Watch this right here.
This is terrible podcasting.
See how it says
9?
7.5?
Oh, 7.5 right there. Yeah.
Okay, but I also had the Niners 10 -10 and now it's -9.5. But
I thought 9.5. It was going to be 9.5.
so let's do we want to do 7.5? Let's do 7.5 for
All right.
Texans.
Seven and a
Because
half.
I think we both knew we were going to take the Texans -9. So that's interesting. Um,
What was I saying? Baltimore rested their starters for 2 full weeks, and Houston is hot. They are on a warpath. Like I think this game is going to be like that atypical Ravens start slow. The Houston Texans are going to come out firing, and the Ravens are going to go down, and they're going to have to come back. And can Lamar Jackson do that? I know Cole over there has been all year long said Lamar Jackson has to prove it to me in the playoffs. This is the time for Lamar Jackson to prove to everybody in the playoffs.
I would love some snow in this game, but
In Baltimore?
I mean, it's 28, but there's no precipitation. I love snow games. And I think just watching Lamar Jackson ball in some snow would be sick. But
The,
what do you got? You
I
got
was
anything
gonna
else?
say the Ravens' purple uniforms look so sick in snow.
Yeah. Um, this will be a fun one. I mean, you look at the Ravens offense, they might have Mark Andrews back in this game.
They could.
And I mean, they got Isaiah Likely. That's a really good tight end that kind of emerged for them at the end of last year, going into the season. They got Zay Flowers. They got Rashad Bateman. They got Odell Beckham. They've got a good little two running back tandem with Edwards and
Justice Hill.
what's his, yeah, Justice Hill. But I don't know. I part of me just thinks that the Texans can just light it up on offense, and their defense is not bad. And I don't think there's been times where the Ravens have been stopped in football games and looked mortal. So I don't think the Ravens are an unbeatable football team. And I don't think their home crowd is something that's impossible to play in. Texans, they played in hostile environments. CJ Stroud's played in big games his whole career as a college quarterback. This moment won't be too big for him. The only thing I look at is I just don't think the Texans have as many weapons as the Ravens do. And I mean, we can go even back to Tank Dell. If Tank Dell was healthy, like would that would be another option that they could use. And I'm not saying the Texans don't have players. It's
They
just
lost Noah Brown too in the Browns game.
did they?
Yeah.
Yeah. So in that case, you've got to run the ball. Devin Singletary's had a really good season, but if you can't get the ball, into third and short, it's going to be tough to. We forget sometimes, and I'm talking about myself too, that the Ravens have a phenomenal defense this year, and in the past they've had a mediocre, a little bit above average defense, but this year it's like a top five. So they've got the whole package as a team. They've got a great special teams. They've got all three phases, that complete team that you like. But again, can Lamar Jackson win in the playoffs?
Yeah. Roquan Smith and Patrick Queen. Those are two dudes that have CJ Stroud's picture hung in their locker right now, I bet, because they're psychopaths. You got anything else on this one?
No.
Let's head to
Saturday Night Football.
Saturday Night Football, San Francisco. I just like the sound of nighttime San Francisco football. And then these two teams squaring off, Jordan Love, Brock Purdy, Matt LaFleur, Kyle Shanahan, Niners, Packers. What you got?
Well, I mean, this is the boogeyman for the Green Bay Packers in the playoffs. Just like the Dallas Cowboys boogeyman was the Green Bay Packers, the Packers boogeyman is the Niners. Kind of funny and ironic that Brett Favre's team that he could never beat in the postseason was the Dallas Cowboys all throughout the 90s and early 2000s. And you go to the next phase of Aaron Rodgers, he can never beat his former favorite team, the San Francisco 49ers. And now Jordan Love has a chance to play both and possibly, shock the world. It would be a phenomenal story. Like I couldn't even go to sleep for 2 days if Jordan Love were to make this happen. I truthfully know it won't. It's not going to. The defense for the Packers is not going to be this. We're playing the Avengers. We're literally playing an offense that has no weaknesses. The only thing you could look at is their offensive line for the Niners is not as dominant as it once was. And if we can get pressure, but even our third best pass rusher tore his ACL in the game against the Cowboys and Kingsley
Oh,
Enagbare.
Kingsley.
So now we're looking at, I mean, Lucas Van Ness has to step up and play more. And Brenton Cox, an undrafted free agent rookie, needs to play some snaps this game. So it's going to be what can we do? We're gonna have to force two turnovers again. It's gonna have to be one of those games where like it's, oh my God, this team has just this magic behind it. And again, the Niners are hungry. They're a hungry team. They didn't get to the Super Bowl last year. They want to go to the Super Bowl. Brock Purdy's mad that he wasn't able to play and win against the Eagles, and they lost in the NFC Championship. They have business to finish. So the narrative for the Packers is there. The narrative for the Niners is there. The Niners have a lot of rest. They were preparing for the Packers since the second quarter of the Packers Cowboys game, according to Kyle Shanahan. So we shall see. As long as our offense can score points, it'll be at least entertaining. Hopefully for the first half of the game, but we got to get off to a fast start. We need Jair Alexander to play, and we've got to prevent Brock Purdy and Christian McCaffrey from beating us. Obviously, you can get the ball to other star players, Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, George Kittle, I'm missing Juwan Jennings. But like these guys are all going to get the ball. They're all going to get fed. We can't let Christian McCaffrey get 120 yards, 2 touchdowns. We can't let Brock Purdy have 85% completion percentage. So it's going to be a tough one.
I
I
think
got last thing I'll say score. I think it's going to be like 38-20 is what I have as my score for this game.
I think their defense is susceptible. I don't know why. Actually, I do know why. Because I watched the Ravens absolutely dissect their defense. And I think that the 49ers are very good, are very good. But I am a big proprietor of you don't pull back on the reins. And I don't I don't know what the record is with people on bye weeks and then playing like a hot team, but I think the Packers are hot like the Texans are. And you could catch a sleeping giant early. You could get up on them early. I would love it if Matt LaFleur goes out there, wins the coin toss again, takes the ball and goes right down the field with Jordan Love. That would set the tone again. That would be wild. Is it going to happen? I don't really know. But I'm just saying that I think the 49ers defense is susceptible. I could be completely fucking wrong, but I think this game is going to be close, and I'm excited for this game.
Two other things to think about this game. Packers defense played 89 snaps, which is more than like 1.5 football games.
How many of them were all the starters out there for?
Probably like 65. But still, I mean, that's a lot of they were gassed. Kenny Clark was saying it, Preston Smith was saying it, they're gassed. They're only doing walkthroughs all week. They're coming off a short week. I will say 2021, the last dance for Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams that year where we were the 1 seed for the third straight year, and we had the chance to be, we took the Niners in and we lost in the divisional round. We had our bye week. Niners were coming off of a late game, playing Saturday night against in Lambeau, and they had the crazy upset. I mean, it's kind of like a reverse, but we're not going to get that. We're not going to get an upset.
You
Anyways,
want to know? You want to know another thing that I think I don't want to say it, but 49ers I watched it. Jake Moody is a fucking liability for them.
he's incredibly good. Kyle, he's the best kicker in the NFL.
Sunday afternoon, Bucks
Yeah.
at Lions. Buccaneers visiting the Detroit Lions. Lions get their second playoff home game, and the Buccaneers with Baker Mayfield come to town. What do you got for a spread?
6.5.
6.5 going towards the Lions. Good game. I think this could if the Bucks play like they did yesterday on Monday Night Football,
It'll be a
I
fun game.
it'll be a fun game to watch. I think it'll be a close game, and it won't 6.5 is a little bit too much for me. I'm fully on the Lions train. Like I'm rooting for the Lions super hardcore, because they're a franchise like my own that it sucks how much we've lost forever, but also feel good stories Baker Mayfield, and I'm not an asshole. I can say when I'm wrong. Like I was wrong that about Baker, and yeah, a few of his throws in that last game against the Eagles, if he was in a Browns jersey, they got picked off, but whatever. What do you got for this one?
It's funny to think the Bucks or the Lions, one of those two teams
Is
will be winning.
playing
in
Yeah.
the NFC Championship game. And I really, as much as I want a good game, I do not want to see the Bucks play in the NFC Championship game. There's
Yeah.
nothing really just intriguing to me about that team. I will say if the Packers win,
You want to play the Bucks.
I would rather play the Bucks. And two reasons. Because we beat the shit out of the Lions, and I don't like playing a team that we beat the shit out of because it just makes me think the opposite's going to happen. With the Bucks, they beat the shit out of us, and I would love to go to Tampa, and but that's we're talking about what's
Yeah, we're
not going
getting
to
ahead of
happen.
ourselves.
So let's focus on the chicken that hasn't hatched or has hatched. The Lions. I mean, the ball's in their court here. They have a chance to make history, go to the NFC Championship. I don't know in how long. I think since 1959, it would be the first time that they've won two playoff games, which was their like title run that they had. But uh Buccaneers, like you said, they've got to put up points in this one, and hopefully it's an exciting football game. Two defenses play good football. It's going to be the team that doesn't get the turnovers or doesn't commit the turnovers that's going to win. I
Yeah.
think that's it.
So we head to our final matchup in Buffalo, the Kansas City Chiefs visiting the Buffalo Bills. Patrick Mahomes' first away game in the playoffs. Of course, it's in Buffalo. These two teams always, always seem to find a way to play each other in the playoffs. Obviously, last year was a different case, but always find a way ever since that crazy 13 seconds game. And then even before that, they were facing off when the Bills were growing and the Chiefs were like the dominant one. Now they're both kind of at the same playing field. So here we are, Mahomes, Allen, Tony Romo, Jim Nance. What you got?
This is the matchup everyone wants. You kind of wish it was in the AFC Championship game, but with the Ravens being as good as they are, we'll let this be the divisional round game. And it's fun to see the Chiefs on the road. It's it's enjoyable to see road games for Kansas City, and I'm glad it's a home game for Buffalo. Buffalo was my Super Bowl pick. I picked them to go to the Super Bowl and win it all way back in July. But it scares me if I'm a Buffalo Bills fan. Kansas City, every chance they can win this game. I see this game being 24-24 late in the fourth quarter, each team getting a chance at it. Whose team do I think has a better defense? Kansas City. Which team do I think will feed off of that home crowd and that'll help them? I think Buffalo. So it's just Buffalo's had a better offensive production season than Kansas City has this year, no doubt. But both have mistakes. Both teams commit mistakes, and you can't have it. Both teams have like ran the ball very effectively throughout the season with their running backs and their running game. So I wouldn't be shocked if both running backs go over 100 yards. This turns into which team can run out the clock on the defense and keep time of possession versus like which quarterback can outduel the other. Like I see this more as a unconventional, not really a Mahomes versus Allen, but a Cook versus Pacheco.
I think you're nailing it on the head, and I think it that in that mindset, I think that favors Buffalo because I think that last time they played in the playoffs with the 13-second thing, I think that left a lasting memory in their head, and Joe Brady's gonna plan to play the Chiefs like keep away. Like keep Pat Mahomes off the fucking field. And we're gonna run the ball and we're gonna dunk and dive left and right with our two tight ends to slowly move the ball down the field.
Dunk and dive or dink and dunk?
Dunk and dive left and right. Here we go. and have those 10-minute, 8-minute, 7-minute fucking drives down the field to even get 3 or 7 points. I think that is exactly what Buffalo's going to try and do.
Yeah. We won't get into who we got on this game because we'll wait. Do we want to go into third down?
Best and sneaky matchup?
Well, third down's the
Oh, lock and upset.
So I am 15-3 on locks with the Bills as my lock over the Steelers. You had the Chiefs over the Dolphins. You go to 10-8 on locks. And then my upset loss, I had the Rams over the Lions. So I go to 7-11. And then you had the Buccaneers, which was a happen. So you go to 7-8 or 7-11. So we're tied at 7-11 on upsets, and I have 5 on you on locks. We'll go to lock and upset for this week. My lock is the Niners over the Packers, and my upset is the Texans over the Ravens.
You said Niners over the Packers?
Yes.
49ers over Packers, and then your upset is Texans over Ravens. Over Ravens. Incredible. That's really funny. My lock of the week. Ooh, lock of the week. Lock of the week. I'm gonna go with Lions over Bucks, and my upset of the week. I'm gonna ride with you. Texans over Ravens.
Okay. And then fourth down, best sneakiest matchup last week. I had the Rams Lions as the best. I was right. You had Packers Cowboys. That was right for me. But
Great game.
the sneakiest, Browns Texans was mine. That was sneaky for the first 2 quarters. And then the Steelers Bills was yours, and that was a boring game, but it was closer than we thought.
Most of them were pretty stinky games.
Yeah. Uh my best game, Chiefs Bills, and my sneakiest game, Texans Ravens.
My best game, I'm gonna just to go with a different one, is Niners Packers. The pageantry, the history, two very long franchises in this NFL, and I just like the idea of night football in San Francisco, baby.
Yeah. What about your sneakiest?
Sneakiest is Lions Bucks. I think that game can be points, points, points if things go the right way.
Yeah, I agree. All right. So we
We both went 1-1.
1-1. Yeah, I lost on the Rams. No, I won on the Rams and I lost on the Browns. You lost on the Steelers and you won on the Chiefs. So I got a 60, 48-2. You go to 57, 51-2. So you have 3 to catch up with me. All right, I'm gonna go Texans plus 7.5.
Okay. Ooh, this is getting tough. I'm gonna take Bucks plus 6.5.
Wow, you get your lock as the Lions, and you're really fighting for that 6 point window. All right, I'm gonna go Bills -3. I actually had the Chiefs in that one. Had the Chiefs, and then I realized I picked the Bills to win the Super Bowl. So I would be a fool if I backed away now.
I
So
was I was about to I'll just fade you on that one. Chiefs plus 3.
all right, that's all I got.
That's all I got. That's fourth down. Who's got the juice? Probably anybody that's
CJ Stroud.
interviewing head coaches right now. Yes, we said CJ Stroud last week, so
Let's say it again.
Say it
CJ
again.
Stroud.
CJ Stroud's got the juice. Brock Purdy's got the juice. Christian
Brock
McCaffrey's
Purdy.
got the juice. Debo Samuel has the juice. Did you
Ayuk.
see how many yards Debo went for at the end of last season? Brandon
Yeah.
Ayuk. Um, that's all
Unstoppable.
I have for this week. MnM going deep. We'll keep it with you. Let's watch this divisional round of the playoffs. Let's see how everything plays out. And we will catch you next week to preview the AFC and the NFC championship games. And we will unfold all of what transpires this week in that episode as well. I'm Kyle McCumber. That is Cole Mueller. And this is another episode of MnM